This is where we are. Well, if you guys don't have any further questions, we'll talk about the rest of Hill House for our next hour. Okay. So we're missing a couple of their normal people tonight. We don't have Colton or Irene. Hopefully they're both fine. We got most of the band here, so we should have a good discussion. So finishing up Hill House, like I gave you guys the basic introductions in that last week. You know, we talked about the different characters, the doctor, Eleanor, Theo, Luke. We talked about the whole band last week. This week we get introduced to a couple of new characters. We got, as we finish the book, mostly Dr. Montague's wife and her weird guy that she brings along with her. Right? But that's a whole interesting thing going on here. But we get all the spooky stuff happening in the second half, right? We mostly just got our introductions last week. This week we have all of the supernatural stuff happening. Of course, the question the book raises: is it supernatural, or is this Eleanor just losing her marbles? Right. That's basically the question the novel raises as it goes on. The further we go through the novel, the crazier Eleanor seems to get in many ways. We can definitely kind of sort of see some of her deep-seated issues coming out. So I've talked for the last hour. I'm sick of talking. So what did you guys make of the whole novel, The Haunting of Hill House, now that we've finished it up?
I was kind of disappointed with the ending.
How so, Tiff?
I just felt like there was such like a build of suspense, and then she drives her car into a tree and she dies.
Right.
I kind of felt the same way. I didn't want her to die. I didn't like when she died, and I thought there was so much suspense. And then, yeah, I agree 100%.
Right. The question there is, was it suicide, or was it actually something pulling her towards the tree? You guys have any thoughts on that?
I think it was actually something supernatural. Especially because, like, that last line where she's thinking, like, she's talking on how she feels it, like she don't know why she won't stop, you know? Like, she's questioning it herself.
Right. Yeah, just before that in the book, we have the whole incident with her up on the library stairs. Right. She can't quite explain why she's doing that either. That looks like she's going to jump off the stairs. So 2 instances here of, was it something pulling her, or was it just because of her own psychoses, so to speak? How about you, Tiffany? You think it was suicide, or you think it was something supernatural?
Well, that's a hard one. Because, I mean, you could really see it on both sides. Because if you've seen it, that it was the house, you know, that caused her to do it. You could also see it, though, as it being suicidal and her own demons, the battle with her own demons, causing her to take her own life.
So the house kind of acts, with what you just said, the house kind of acts as almost like a conduit, right, for allowing all of her bad emotions to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Most of the rest, we don't have to just focus on the end. We can focus on all kinds of the spooky events in the book, like help Eleanor come home, right? We could talk about that, or the incident with Theo. We also had with the clothes. We also have the weird scene in the book where Eleanor feels like something's holding her hand at night. And then she finds out nothing's there. So she feels like somebody grab her arm, but nobody's there. So that's an interesting scene in the book. But we can focus on a lot of different stuff. But the question is extended. How much of this was Eleanor and how much was the house?
I was kind of like questioning the whole time. Like she kind of seemed crazy from like once you figure out, like when you're first reading it, you don't think she's crazy, and then looking back after you finish it, she kind of looks crazy even from the beginning. It's like her pulling over on the side of the road, or thinking about that and pulling over on the side of the road. Even looking at like when she was in that field, she was looking at like the gate or whatever. Like it looked like it was protected by some kind of what did it say, poisonous flower or something.
Mm-hmm.
She was imagining like a castle and something on the other side. Like after I look back, like she just seemed crazy from like beginning to the end.
Way back in chapter 3. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Taylor. Go ahead.
I thought the second, like, Eleanor come home, I thought that might have been her who did it, just because her relationship was so weird with the other girl. Like, they had it was a strange relationship.
Yeah. How so, Taylor? You take us there.
It was weird in a lot of different ways. There was a lot of jealousy in a way, but then they were also very close in a way, so it was just strange all around.
Yeah. Of course, last week I introduced us to Theo as like possibly a lesbian character in the book, right? Because it talked early about her relationship with her roommate very early on. So it's hard to argue that there's maybe not some of that happening here, right? With her and Eleanor's relationship. It's not spelled out. Like you said, Taylor, they're very close.
She also makes fun of her for hanging out with that guy, which I thought was weird because all they did was like talk outside. I remember because she upset her and she stormed outside. Like that's something a little more friend. That's not really friendly. Like that's just jealousy.
Right. We get when we have the scene where Theo's clothes are soiled. Right. We have where Theo thinks it's blood. Right. That's trickling down. You can kind of, it's not just any blood, right? That's we get a couple of pages after that, Eleanor feels loathing about Theodora, right? She feels loathing towards her for no clear reason. Find the passage for you. 116 in my book. This is the book. Well, you guys can't see it. The camera's turned on, but I have the Penguin Classic version. Yeah, but she washes Eleanor, or she washes Theo, the blood off of Theo. And we get that she feels some type of loathing towards her. She's at pretty close to the beginning of section 3 of chapter 5. And she says, cleaned. Theodora rolled convulsively on the bed and pressed her stained hands against her eyes. Cleaned? For heaven's sake, Eleanor said, let me wash you off. She thought, without trying to find a reason, that she had never felt such uncontrollable loathing for any person before. And she went into the bathroom and soaked the towel and came back to scrub roughly at Theodora's hands and face. You're filthy with the stuff, she said, hating to touch Theodora. Suddenly, Theodora smiled at her. I don't really think you did it, she said, and Eleanor turned to see that Luke was behind her, looking down at them. What a fool I am, Theodora said to him. Luke laughed. She is wicked, Eleanor thought, beastly and soiled and dirty. She took the towel into the bathroom and left it to soak in cold water. When she came out, Luke was saying, another bed is in here. You girls are going to share a room from now on. Share a room and shower our clothes, Theodora said. We're going to be practically twins. Cousins, Eleanor said, but no one heard her. Right. So that's an illuminating passage, like describing their relationship, I think. Why does she feel loathing, right, towards Theodora's? For her being covered in blood, all this stuff. Lots of scholarship I've read on the book, but it mostly points to like the sex stuff, right? They a lot of the scholarship I read on that passage, they describe it as like maybe this is Eleanor feels disgusted with her, right? Because maybe she feels disgusted with herself for being perhaps a lesbian herself. So that's mostly what the readings I read on that. I don't know, you guys have any hot takes there? It's not just that passage, but their relationship in general. Yeah, Jackson, there was intuitions that she was that way herself. I told you guys last week that she had a really crappy marriage for various reasons, mostly the fact that her husband was kind of a sleaze. But yeah, of course, in the 1950s, they just don't spell this stuff out to you, right? Like even in Gothic works, Gothic works represent this type of stuff when it represents them with like symbols and weird feelings and stuff like that. So that's mostly why that relationship's been framed that way. They sleep in a bed together, right? You could look at that as just like two girlfriends, right? Just chilling out, right? They were close, but you could read it deeper if you want. I don't know. Do you guys think this isn't my belief, right? I mean, this is just beliefs from other people. I'm echoing to you, but do you guys think that there's something strange going on with the two, or do you think we're overreading it?
Now that you mention it, you put it that way, I can see it.
How so, Tiffany?
I'm trying to think of the words, how to put it in there. Well, like when you was reading and they were sharing a room, I could imagine like in that time era, they couldn't really like spell it out and say what was really going on. So even probably that time period, women didn't really share a room and, share each other's clothes and stuff, even as family.
Yeah, the whole relationship, like I liked how it was open to interpretation because it kind of confused me at first, but like now that you mention it and stuff, like how she kept mentioning about how she was disgusted and how she didn't want her wearing her clothes and whatnot. I could definitely see how it would be framed like that during that time period.
Right. So you guys for the most part seem convinced by these arguments. Like perhaps their sexuality, right? Maybe that's what the house is even picking on, right? Even if it is something supernatural, right? The house can kind of sense their guilt that they might feel about it, right? Because this was a time period where this type of thing you weren't empowered by, right? Most of the time you kept it to yourself and kept it in the closet, right? Felt guilt about it. Like this type of thing wasn't open. So maybe that's what the house is in fact preying on, is if they are that way, right? Maybe it's preying on their guilt. Or maybe the house has nothing at all to do with it, right? Maybe it's just their guilt manifesting itself in strange ways.
And that's why she would seem jealous, you know, because there's feelings there for her.
She also immediately felt bad after upsetting her.
Right? She said, I don't really think you did it, Eleanor. Right? Yeah, even close to the end, before Eleanor drives into the tree, right? They're kicking her out of the house and telling her to go home. Even then, like Theo won't speak to her. Like they have this whole like hug out kind of deal close to the end, right? So Theo feels resentment towards her for the way she's acting and whatnot. So, like I said, even close to the end, their relationship seems complex. Eleanor's like, "Oh, I couldn't have left here without you saying goodbye to each other, Theo." It's like even close to the end, things are interesting. Jacob, I know where's Jacob? I know you had a lot of opinions on this book last week, Jacob. What's your hot takes on all this stuff?
Well, I haven't really quite finished the book yet. I got about 58 minutes left in it. I'm right at the part where Dr. Montague's wife has just arrived with Arthur, and she's moving into the nursery, and they're all getting ready to lay down for the night, and all of a sudden everything, hits the fan. And they all rush to the library, and they hear it going down the hall, and Dr. Montague's just yelling, hoping that she hasn't confronted it or provoked it or anything like that. So I'm still leaning more towards, and I'm the kind of guy that just reads it as it is. I'm not thinking that the house is running on, suppressed homogeneous type energies, I'm just thinking it's a haunted house and there's a ghosty walking down the hallway. But it's a real bleak, kind of shrivel type deal. I like it. It's a good book. Not a whole lot going on in the background. Like I said, I'm just kind of reading to read. Don't have too many opinions on anything. I am kind of upset that I attended class and you guys spoiled the end.
Sorry, Jacob.
Well, it's my own fault. I should have made more time for it, but I didn't get an hour in. And now I know she just runs off into a tree, so that's great.
Well, you can think about a build up before that, right? Is it her going crazy, right? Or is it, as you just said, that's a perfectly reasonable way to read the book, right? Like it is a haunted house. There's spooky stuff going on, right? I mean, maybe we are overanalyzing, but
And what that's actually, what kind of makes it the most troubling for me is, being more of a realist. I don't necessarily believe in ghosts and things of that sort of nature. It's not really something that I buy into. And for the story to be what it is just little monsters running in shadows. I enjoy it, but I don't think I can pick up on anything past that.
did you get to the part, Jacob, where they look at Hugh Crane's weird book?
Oh yeah, that was a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was real good. With the seven sins in it. And I mean, it started out as just his little instruction book to his daughter, like, here, read this every night, maybe you won't go to hell. And he illustrated it himself. I thought it was, I thought it was pretty good. Pretty good writing. Kept my attention. I wasn't trying to multitask or anything. I was able to stay focused on the book. With Dracula, I couldn't really do that. For Dracula, it wasn't a very good read for me. I couldn't buy enough into the story to sit and pay as much attention to it as I needed to. With Hill House, it's different. I'm following along with the characters, and then Eleanor crashes into a tree. It sucks. I don't even know if I want to finish the last bit.
Yeah, go ahead and finish it. Like I said, I kind of disagree with the two of you earlier, right? I've always thought that it's a appropriate end of the book. You kind of want her to come away with a happy ending, right? But do things ever work out happily in the Gothic novels, right? Usually not. Dracula is probably the closest we got to a happy ending. Even then, we had poor Quincy die at the end.
That's kind of what I was expecting with all of the Gothic novels that we read. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew it wasn't going to be some happy ending like I wanted it to be.
I was anticipating I knew like there probably wasn't going to be a happy ending, but I still was anticipating like the house to open up and swallow her or something like grand, not just her just drive into a tree.
Yeah, if you guys watch the 99 version of the movie called The Haunting, it has more of an ending like you would expect, like you just said, Tiffany. Like in that movie, it's Hugh Crane's ghost like haunting everybody. Like it just comes out at the end and they have a big standoff. They banish the ghost. And it's more over in your face, I suppose, than the book is.
I knew something bad was going to happen to her. I just didn't want it to.
Right. She's a relatable character, right? You can't help but feel for her here with all the stuff that she's gone through with her family. No one really appreciates her. Being a caretaker for her mother all those years. Like she's never found herself. Just when she starts to find herself, we'll put find herself in quotes, right? Because how much we want to read into her finding herself. But just when she does, right, she dies. So that's pretty sad. Yeah, that's very sad indeed. Well, we got I think some of the stuff that happens early in the book where they talk about all the people who were at Hill House before. I think that's a way to, like, if we were going to read it as like supernatural ghosts and stuff, that's probably a way to do it, right? Because we got the whole story early about the older sister versus the younger sister. The older sister brought in they call her a quote companion, right, from the town, a young girl. Right? But the younger sister, like, they have these family fights, right, over who's going to own the house. If you're going to take the house, I deserve the fine china in the house. Right? We learn that the older sister dies, and I think it's foul play. The younger sister thinks it's foul play from the companion. But basically, the younger sister drives the companion to kill herself. Right? So we were going to look at it as there is, in fact, something supernatural happening. Right? We could maybe look at it as being like her ghost. Maybe it's kind of like acting. Because usually we have ghost stories, right? Usually ghosts haven't moved on for whatever reasons, right? There's some type of energy still holding them in the world. So, like we could read it that way, or well, we have the whole part about Hugh Crane and his Seven Deadly Sins book. That's a little messed up. Imagine being like a 5-year-old girl and seeing like pornographic depictions of lust and greed and stuff like that. All that stuff's pretty messed up too, right? So maybe it's Crane's ghost. Right? There's plenty of evidence both ways to suggest one or the other. I don't know. What did you guys think of all that backstory? Do you maybe think, does that add to anything? You think maybe some of those spirits are haunting the place, or does it add to the place's bad juju in general?
I think the backstory is the reason why I don't think it was Eleanor just killing herself.
Right. So do you think, Taylor, that it might have been the companion maybe trying to pull her in just because she fell into that herself?
I don't know if it's that necessarily, or like what's going on with the house, but there's clearly like something weird going on with the house. I mean, the first man and woman that went there, she died in the carriage, which is almost the like same way that she died.
Right.
Well, she hit the tree and the carriage hit the tree, same thing, which is weird. And like everyone who tries to leave the house, like that's what that man was saying, dies a weird way. Like I definitely think it was something supernatural.
It was the same exact tree. Yeah, you're right about that.
I agree with Taylor. I feel like there's definitely something with the house. And as far as what ghost it is, I couldn't pinpoint which one I would have an opinion on, one or the other, but I definitely do feel like it's something supernatural.
Yeah, the support what you two just said, and I think the scene that maybe illustrates that it was something supernatural was the scene where Eleanor felt something grab her arm, right? Yeah, it's hard to argue that wasn't. I mean, she could have done it to herself, right? But it's hard to argue that wasn't a scene where something suspicious is happening. And she wakes up and sees that nothing's there, right? There's also the scene where Theodora sees like the ghostly picnic. Right? Did you get to that scene, Jacob, where she discovers the ghost picnic?
I'm sorry, I'm eating ice cream.
Yeah. Did you get to the scene where Theodora discovers like that ghostly picnic?
Yeah, I kind of caught the back end of it there. It just went real dark on them, and more or less they were terrified of the dark, but they also had the feeling of something chasing them because it was just Eleanor, right? Eleanor said run, and then it was dark, and then they felt like there was something chasing them.
Right. Yeah, Theodora supposedly sees something. She never will say what it was that she saw. But they did run, right? Then that was about the time it was getting dark. Dark is always when bad things happen at Hill House, right? As the crazy maid always says, right? I will never come back in the dark, in the night. she always has to ham it up. I'm always out of here by 5 o'clock. Right? Don't expect any service after 5. No one's going to hear you scream at night. Yeah, I've always loved that character. I think she's hilarious. Usually in the movies and stuff, she's played up for laughs.
I guess it would have to be the land and not the house, because then the supernatural stuff start happening before the house was built. Like when the woman crashed into the tree in her carriage. Like, I don't think the house had been built yet.
I think you're right about that, Taylor. I think that might have been when they were trying to build the house. So maybe you guys know, usually with like haunted house stories, usually the land is haunted in some way. Most of the time, it's in these types of stories, it's something like Native American burial grounds or something like that. Like in The Shining, for instance. I know all of you all have probably seen The Shining at some point in your life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they even describe that as a Indian burial ground in that movie.
What did you think of Dr. Sleep?
I loved it. I thought it was a great film.
There was a lot going on.
What is it, Jacob?
I said there was a lot going on there. I had to watch it a few times.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good film. I like the fact that they made it a sequel to the film, not King's book necessarily. Because I like the Shining movie better than the book. Yeah, I really appreciated that aspect of it. There's sometimes where the movie is better than the book. Lots of times it does happen, no matter what some book nerds will tell you. Sometimes the movie is better than the book. Yeah, some book nerds will argue differently, but you know what? I teach both books and movies, so sometimes the movie is better.
I preferred the Hunger Games series, the movies, to the book series. I just thought it was like more fitting because the action scenes and stuff were really, really cool.
It's easier to envision them and see the action and stuff compared to the written form. Yeah, I've never read or watched those. I need to. Harry Potter, I always preferred the books over the films.
Definitely prefer the books. Definitely.
Lord of the Rings, I prefer the movies.
Me too.
I never really got into the Harry Potter books or the Lord of the Ring books, but I read all of the Aragon series. and I about ripped my hair out when I watched the movie the first time.
Yeah, I haven't read the book, but I did see the movie. I remember the movie wasn't too good.
No, it was terrible. You know, the books are exactly what you want from a fantasy novel. You know, there's 4 books, and you know the writer kind of made his own world and his own language, and just kind of running with it, and it's pure gold. But the movie just made a lot of people mad.
Yeah, I found with Stephen King stuff, especially, I've always feel like the movies are better than his books. Like, I've always thought that Stephen King's a good person who comes up with good ideas, but he doesn't always execute them well in his books. Sometimes, usually, the directors and stuff will go in and make what he wrote better. I'm not the greatest Stephen King fan. I do appreciate some of his books, but I usually think his movies of his books are usually better. My guys might have wondered why I didn't assign any of his stuff in here. Mostly because all of his stuff's so damn long, right? It would take us a whole month to read one of his books. But yeah, like even when it comes to him, I usually find that his films are better. That's just my opinion, though. Many people disagree. Yeah, he's our preeminent horror writer living today, though. Yeah, so again, if you guys are interested in checking out a film version of Hill House, I would recommend that 60s one. It's very spooky. Like it's very psychological. Like the way that we were reading stuff like repressed sexualities and stuff like that. That movie is very that movie handles that very well. Very tastefully. The 90s version of the movie, if you just want some good dumb fun, you can watch that. Like Catherine Zeta-Jones plays Theo in it. She's like super aggressively like lesbian in the movie and stuff. So like there's nothing subtle about the 90s version, but it's pretty fun. Like you're not gonna get something great and intellectual out of it. It's just a dumb movie. But the Netflix show, if you watch that, it makes all the characters in the books siblings. Right? So rather than just being 4 strangers that meet, it makes them siblings. And they all grew up in Hill House and saw stuff. So they changed the formula of the story a little bit. But at first I was skeptical about it. I gave it a second chance. I really enjoyed it. So even if you guys want to keep reading more about Hill House or watch something, that's a very good adaptation. You mentioned Dr. Sleep earlier, Jacob. The same guy who directed Dr. Sleep did the Haunting of Hill House TV show. So
Yeah, I've watched a couple episodes.
did you like it?
I do. You know, I don't have as much time as I'd like to commit to watching it, but you know, I really enjoy it when I do watch it. Right now, I'm on a Criminal Minds kick. I've been watching Criminal Minds, and then haven't really done too much else. I've been real into my industrial maintenance and my motors class. We're working with time relays right now, so that's fun. But yeah, stuff goes along, and I'm sure I'll finish it eventually.
Yeah, the same guy did that Midnight Mass show, which just came out. That's real popular right now. I would recommend that show too. It's an interesting spin on vampires. So if you want to watch something spooky and psychological, that's a good show. And now that my baseball season is over, I'm stuck with watching movies all the time. So at least my guys won. So Ethan, we got revenge on you for the Red Sox. So we beat the dirty cheaters.
But I'm switched to football mode now. I'm watching Bucks. Not you like the Niners, don't you?
Yeah, we're having a pretty crap year. So
Yeah, that'll be okay though.
it feels like the league has figured out Kyle Shanahan. That's what it's felt like this year. He's not making adjustments either. So usually once football season's over, I'm stuck until April because I'm not a basketball guy. So that's always the most depressing months of the year for me, January to April, just because I don't have any sports in my life.
College basketball is really watching that's kind of fun. I mean, I'm a big basketball guy though.
Yeah, I prefer the college to the NBA. I think the NBA is boring.
I feel like it's boring, like, and everybody thinks it's boring because like it doesn't look like they're trying, but like when you put 10 superhumans on a court together, like it's gonna
That's
look
what
like
happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it in the 90s when Michael Jordan and all them were Larry Bird and all those guys were playing. The new generation of players, I haven't. It just doesn't feel the same as it did way back then. But yeah, I'll probably let you guys go now. Like I said, I'm glad you guys seem to get into Hill House. Like I said, it's of all the books we read in the class, it's probably my favorite. I think it's 180 pages. It's just as long as it needs to be. It's not too long, not too short. Like of all the books we read in here, like it's always been my favorite. I will leave you guys with this question though. Of the three we read, the three novels, which one was your guys' favorites? I know what Jacob's answer is, probably Frankenstein.
Yeah, I'm a Frankenstein guy.
This one was my favorite.
You gravitated most to this one too, Tiffany?
Yeah.
I think I'm torn between Frankenstein and this one.
I think this one.
Right. This one has more of a depth of characters than the other two. It's got really interesting women characters and men characters. Like whereas the other two were mostly just men characters, besides Mina and Dracula. And we know Lucy, she got the raw end of the deal, even in how she was depicted. Yeah, there's lots of other good Gothic novels I would recommend. Another really good one from the 1800s is Henry James's book, A Turn of the Screw. If you guys liked Hill House, like more like the ghost story stuff, Turn of the Screw is a classic. Yeah, they made the show Haunting of Bly Manor based on that book. So If you ever want to read another old, really good Gothic novel, there's another one I would recommend. Yeah, as far as the readings goes, we are done. So now we're just going to be in writing mode from here on out. So, like I said, sometime over the next week, figure your topics out, do your topic proposal on Blackboard for next week. Start digging around for some sources. If you have trouble finding them, just ask, and we can work together and hopefully get you some stuff. And also, sometime over the next week or so, like if you guys need help with, like even your advising for next semester's classes, I'll be happy to help you guys do that too. I'm trained in how to do all that. So if you would rather come to me than your normal person, I'd be happy to do that for you. Just so you guys know, I'm available for that service too.
I actually had a question about like either your film or your theater class next semester. Is it kind of set up like how this one is?
Yep. Yep, pretty much the same exact way. We read or watch something and come together and discuss it. So
Okay, I was just wondering because I really want to take it, but like softball season for my high school starts in March, and I was just trying to, like, would it be if I had to miss like a Zoom call every now and then? How would that work?
yeah, that'd probably be fine. The film class meets twice a week. The theater class only meets 1 day a week. So it depends how your schedule, you would be able to work your schedule. But yeah, I mean, like if you had to miss all the time, that would be a problem. But if you just had to miss every now and then, that probably wouldn't be.
Okay.
I was going to ask you about one of the discussions on the grade book for Zoom. You gave me a 2 out of 10 on it, I think.
That's strange.
I think you
Okay.
might have an accident or something.
Which
I think
one? Which one was that?
I'm not sure exactly which one it was. I think it was one of the Dracula ones.
Yeah, I'll go in and look and see, let you know.
Okay.
Let me quickly write down a list of everybody who was here for the day so I can enter your Zoom grade for the week before I let you go. 11, 10. Cassidy, Ethan, Jacob, both Taylors, Tiffany. Yeah, guys, like next semester, I'll be happy to have any of you all again. You guys have been a very enjoyable group, so y'all can squeeze me in if you need any of my classes. Sign up. I'll be happy to have all of you again. So, like I said, hit me up if you need help with that. I can sign you up. So other than that, we'll see you guys again next week. Next week is going to be more of another skills day. Like we're going to cover paper writing stuff. So we'll see you all again next week.
So is this our last Zoom, or are we going to have more Zooms on Wednesdays?
I'm still going to do Zooms on Wednesdays, but we'll still talk and joke around and stuff, but you don't have to read anything else. Like next couple of Zooms, I'm going to be going over paper writing and stuff.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, see you next week.
See you guys next week.